سر همبندی، حق بازی به چند وقتی انسان میتواند یک کاری را پیش ببرد، ولی این کار دائمی نمیتواند باشد. چنده هر کسی که تو خالی باشد بالاخره معلوم میشد.
Welcome to Chante Podcast. Today I'm joined by Ken Hsieh, award-winning conductor, artistic leader, and someone who has spent his life bringing people together through music. But this conversation is not about music. It's about leadership, creativity, ambition, and the stories behind the person holding the baton. Welcome to my show, Ken.
Great. Thanks so much for having me, Hassan.
Absolutely. So Ken, a lot of my audience, they are mostly Iranian diaspora. They want to know you more. How do you like to introduce yourself? Just tell them about yourself.
Well, basically, I'm, born in Canada. Born in.
Don't be too modest. Tell them
Don't be
the
too
truth.
modest, right?
How great! Yeah.
Well, I was born in Edmonton, a very back in 1980, in a very Canada, and it's a very cold place. Why my parents came to Edmonton still baffles me. But they came from a place of Taiwan, which is it has weather of maybe plus 30 degrees or 35 degrees in the summer, to a place, in Edmonton that is minus 30, and so it still continued to baffle me why they went there. But, born and raised in Edmonton, and, played music all my life, and I did more sports and more, a little bit of music in my background, but I was a very happy kid. I have very loving parents who really supported me throughout my whole journey. And so I'm very blessed. And, it's so nice to be here and now making my residence primarily in Vancouver. And, so I have been, for the last 25 years into conducting, and I'm conducting now the Vancouver Metropolitan Orchestra here, which is an orchestra I founded during my time when I was in the Vancouver Symphony Orchestra as the assistant conductor. And so it's been a joyful ride, and I'm really, really grateful for the opportunities I have around the world. I get to travel a lot to China, which I'm leaving tomorrow to China, to Japan, and to...
And you speak all these languages? You speak Japanese? I know you speak Japanese.
My Japanese is not the best, but I mean, I do get by, and my Chinese, same thing. My Mandarin, I get by. I mean, it's quite, Ethan, I would say it's quite, how would I say it? This is the only sort of conflicting thing in my life, is living sort of a double life of, because when I go to an Asian country, because I look exactly like them, the expectation is that I should speak, when I'm in Japan, Japanese, because I should know all the etiquettes and rules. And when I go to China or to Taiwan or anywhere, I should know the etiquettes and the rules and the language. So it's actually, I do speak the language enough to get by, but obviously I have the accent that gives it off. But,
would they accuse you of why are you forgetting your identity? What are you doing with your life? You are Taiwanese. You've got to be a Taiwanese, 100%, something like that. Because we have this problem in like Iranian culture too.
Really? Well,
Yeah.
For me, I think it's for anybody who sort of a second generation born in Canada or America or anywhere outside of the home country of their parents. And I do get it a lot, and you're not wrong. I mean, there is a sense of pride, but sometimes, it's hard because when I was born in Edmonton and raised in Edmonton and partly in Vancouver, um, I wasn't really surrounded much by, people from Taiwan or from China. It was a very mixed, multicultural upbringing because, when I was in Edmonton, I was probably the only Asian kid in my school. And then when I went moved to North Vancouver, which where I started, a lot of my schooling, and I was the only Asian kid until much into the '90s when the influx of the Hong
Asian,
Kong
Hong,
people
yeah.
and Taiwanese came in the '90s, and then of course in the 2000 the people from the mainland China come in. So I didn't really get that chance to really absorb and soak in all those cultural elements back then because back then it was very very different for us and so yeah, identity is one thing.
Identity, one thing, and you they seem to know a lot about Japanese, and although they are very very different, but yeah,
Hmm.
you kind of have full exposure to all of these because of your career, because of what you are doing for a living, right?
Yeah, I think that one of the great things about my job is that, when I get to travel a lot, I get to meet so many, really wonderful and interesting people and to really divulge into the culture. I always wish I had more time to go out and explore the culture, like because in Japan it kind of I'm a little bit ashamed. I've been there for over 5 years or so, and I still haven't seen. For example, I've been in Osaka every year, multiple times, or and I even worked there for quite a good number of years. I still haven't seen the Osaka Castle, and people, always look at me like,
I've seen Osaka Castle.
you have seen it, right?
I've seen Osaka
So
Castle.
you obviously see more than I have.
I've just been to Osaka once.
Yeah, and you only been there once, and I've been there I don't know how many times, hundreds of times, and I just I haven't seen any parts of the culture. So it's a bit hard, but one of the things is soaking up the culture, and I love learning about new culture, and it's great thing to do it through music, and that's a blessing for me in my life.
You are very lucky. You have a very beautiful job. You have like almost like it's a very very cool job to have, being the conductor, being into music and classical music.
We don't do all classical music. I mean, we do all kinds of music. I wouldn't say the classical strictly. Of
Okay.
course, maybe our primarily genre of music is seem to be like classical, but we do pop music. We do movie music. We do ethnic music. I know. In a couple of days, if I'm not mistaken, my friend, the Vancouver Symphony is actually performing an Iranian concert, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I think so. Yeah, of
yeah,
course. Kalhor is coming.
oh yes, yes. And so
Yeah.
so it shows that Vancouver, even Vancouver, as much as we are a very diverse ethnic groups here of so many different ethnicity, we still have so many kinds of music that we love to explore and perform. So, like the Vancouver Symphony, my former colleagues, they're all performing, Iranian music in a couple of days, and you
In
can think
couple
about
of
that.
days. Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
you know what's the problem is? Like
Hmm.
Iran, a lot of Iranian people, they say no to going to, because of what happened in Iran very recently, 3 months ago or
Mm,
4 months ago. A lot of Iranian, they don't want to go to concerts these days because they don't want to normalize the situation. They want to tell nothing is normal because of Iranian people. Maybe it's a cultural thing,
mm.
but it's kind of they want to give this. They want they just they don't want to pretend things are back to normal. Like going to concert is like for a nation that have a very normal life, and it's been only 3 months. So now I don't know if I'm gonna go. I really
Mm.
want to go, but I'm thinking about it. But that would be a great concert to be in. I
Yeah,
can give you
it
that.
would be a great concert to be in. I mean, music is, music is another form of, bringing message, and whether what kind of music it is. I haven't really explored enough to know about what the Vancouver Symphony is performing this Iranian concert. But from what I've heard, you're not the only one who told me about the struggles that Iranians are going through right now. But I think everybody sees it, in the whole world, what's going on. And yeah, I mean, I would be very, very honest to say that, you know, things today. I mean, like our prime minister has said, things are very transformative. Like it's very different today than, just even a few years ago.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Okay, I've written down some questions for you. I
Mm,
want to go over them with you,
sure,
and then let's go one by one.
sure, sounds
Okay.
good.
What's the one thing people always get wrong about conductors?
They think it's easy. They think our job is just
Just
standing there and waving
chill.
our hand. Yeah. I'd be very honest about this. It's the if we were to put other people in front, people with absolutely no experience or anything, and you put them on, it's so evident how difficult it is. And it's one of those professions, I hate to say, it can be taught, but then there's also a part of it that has to be within you, like it's something born with. I'm not saying it's not a talent, but it's something as a kind of leadership, a kind of you know, I I always say great musicians know how to communicate to great conductors know how to communicate to the musicians in a way that inspires them to be the best they are. And
Right.
and I think, in my job, I would not say it's just just waving 1, 2, 3, 4. I swear anybody can do that. My job, it's really more about it's more like a psychologist. How do you bring out the best in these people? Sometimes with just your gestures, sometimes with just what you say, whether you say a lot of information or you say it in a certain way. It never, never, never. Um, it's never like a 9 to 5 job where you do something very routinely. And
Right.
so one of the things I love about this job is that, every week, I mean, depends on my concert schedule, but, you know, um, I'm always having something new. And that really makes the life of a conductor quite interesting. And when I get to meet when I get to go to different countries, for example, when I go to Japan, they're the most prepared orchestra in the world, in my
In
humble opinion.
Japan,
Japan, because they practice, they rehearse at home, they study, and they perfect their technique, and they're just so prepared that when you make music, it just comes so naturally. They know what you want, and it's just because they know everything, and it really helps. Then
what's the worst? What's the worst country?
I'm not gonna say anybody, but I don't want to get in trouble here. But I wouldn't say there's a worst country, but let me put it this way:
Okay.
I had the great fortune of conducting in Brazil before too, and I went to Brazil, and these players, these musicians came in. But one thing, they might not have the technique and the preparation like the Japanese. However,
The passion.
what the passion, the spirit, the energy, oh, they lived it like, they performed that concert that I did with them like it's the last day of their life,
Hmm.
and they just gave it everything that, literally at the end, I'm just blown away by how much, how much energy and passion that goes in there because I've never seen anything like that where, like, okay, the rehearsal process sometimes it's a little difficult, but my gosh, the passion and the energy and everything just makes up for it. So I'm not going to say anybody's better than anybody. I would say this though, that every country you go to, there are going to be pros and cons,
They're
and it's just
different.
they're different, and you have to know how to kind of balance and kind of work on the things that will make the best out of your interpretation. So I always say this. I always compare conducting to
But
cooking.
let me ask you that. These Brazilian, like, if you want to pick between Japanese and Brazilian, which one, if they're more creative though? I know Japanese are disciplined. I know they're perfecting everything they get into. They keep the
Yeah.
process very optimized, very smooth.
Um,
But in terms of creativity, which, like,
You know, it's hard to say because
it's hard to say.
The Japanese are so creative too in many ways too. Because just look at the invention they have,
Absolutely.
you know, the inventions they have in Japan, and then just look at the music scenes in Japan. Like even right now, the Japanese scene of music is so strong. Like there's new music constantly being made in Japan, and then the orchestras are just flourishing, and there's younger players, and there's more creativity. So I can't really say that there would be one that's better than the other, but I think this is kind of the interesting part of being a conductor, because you're like the CEO of a company. You come in, and you know, for however long you're going to be with this group, you have to try to make it to a level that you know that they're hoping to strive together with you.
Right.
And so that's what I think it's you know, the rewarding part. Because you know, when I first time, I'm not going to name this orchestra because I still work with them, but there's an orchestra that I work with, and I yell at them so much, you know, like in the beginning, like we have the longest histories, and then
I cannot
the
take you for someone that yelling.
yeah, and then it would go in and out of the ears, and so I got really frustrated, and this is what I said. Like psychology comes in. I started saying, "Oh, you know, like I said something really ridiculous, like did Beethoven write this not good enough that you have to change it?" And all the players just went, "Oh my god!" Like they got embarrassed in front of me and in front of all their colleagues, and you know, I didn't have to yell. I just kind of said something a little bit ridiculous, but and it worked. In the break time, they were all practicing and fixing their parts. So it's very interesting how you know each orchestra works. I mean, I would never do that in Japan because I mean, you know, they
Of
come
course.
so prepared, right? So
Uh,
um
So
uh
one thing, I was actually in Japan 3 months ago. I
mm,
did it. I traveled in Japan for almost 3 weeks, and
mm,
we flew into Tokyo, and
mm-hmm,
we took the train all the way to South Osaka, Hiroshima, Kobe, all these major cities.
mm.
And I was really, really, that was the first time I was traveling to that part of the world. I've never been to Asia,
And it
and
was a cultural shock, wasn't it? It was like
that was
wow, right?
crazy. And I said, "Wow, look at them! They perfected everything, but they're
Mm-hmm.
in their own way.
In their
It's
own way, absolutely. I
it's
think
just crazy."
and their invention, for example, you talk about, you know, how Nintendo came in, right? You think
Yeah,
about our, you know, when you and I grew up, we had Nintendo. You know,
I
think
had
about
Nintendo
yeah,
Rumble.
yeah, and think about Nintendo. Think about that creativity they had in Japan. It was fantastic. But you know, one thing I would say right now is, you know, I've been fortunate to see so many different countries, whether it's Italy, France, or you know, United States, or one of the interesting and most fascinating countries I see right now is actually China, because I've been um, in China, you know, working in and out from 2006 or 7,
Hmm.
and to see the evolution of what China has gone through is really something of admiration too, because I know the people still criticize certain things and stuff about, you know, China, but what I've been able to see with my own eyes in China is really revolutionary. Because, for example, we talk about now electric cars, you know, and sure, they weren't the inventors of you know, electric cars. You know, you could say Tesla and all those things were, but what they did is they take, you know, an idea like Tesla, and they would tenfold it.
Hmm.
And so, and I think that, you know, the thing is that they try to now, you know, of course, no, that country has gone through so much that, now I think they're on a path of a journey that kind of resembles, and I would say this very similar to in the music making too, is that they're on a path of sort of getting into the creation and starting to get into a perfection mode.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I know what you absolutely went through when you visited Japan for the first time, to see all those things and everything perfected, and food that tastes so
Amazing.
amazing. And my dear apologies to the Italians out there, but I've had colleagues, and sometimes I've had Italian food in Japan that tastes so much better than in Italy, you
But
know?
of course, like everything, it tastes so good. I
Yeah.
love the meat. I love the meat and the street food. Wow, the street food in Tokyo
Oh,
and every neighborhood you go,
yeah.
but the Shibuya crosswalk, all these neighborhood, every
Yeah.
neighborhood is so populated, it's so crowded, but
Mm,
but crazy, disciplined, and everything was organized
yeah.
and everything was nice. And you know what? Something that really surprised me: there was no garbage bin on the street.
Yes, so the
People,
the garbage bin is actually it's actually quite a sad story, because I don't know if you know about this story about 1990 something. There was a cult that went out and they poisoned a lot of people
yeah, the
in
chemical
Tokyo.
terrorist
They
attack
can terror
and
attack that.
in the metro. Yeah.
Yeah, and then because of that, that's partly part of the reason that they don't have garbage can in there, because before I think the cult was putting certain chemicals into the garbage, and then it would poison certain people in these cities. So I think they're being very cautious, and now, like, if you do see a garbage can, it's actually transparent. You can see what's inside and outside. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Let me ask you one more question. Do
Hmm.
you play any instrument yourself?
I did. So when I started on the piano,
Okay.
and so I wasn't a great pianist, but I enjoyed playing the piano. One of the things I hated about the piano was that it's actually a very lonely instrument, because there's not that many opportunity to play with other people. For example, the violin, you can play in an orchestra, you can play chamber music, but it's one of the instruments that I think is closest to resembling an orchestra. You can make it sound like an orchestra. Then I started on the violin too. That was just for fun, and I wasn't so good, because one of my teachers said I had too fat fingers. My fingers were too fat to be on the violin back then. And then no, but then my real joy actually came when I started playing the drums.
Drums.
So percussion, yes, and so I did join, like, in North Vancouver. There used to be a band called the North Van Youth Band. I joined that for many years, and then I went to the Vancouver Youth Symphony Orchestra, which I played for a few years too, and I enjoyed it, because actually, we made friends, and then you were making music together, and it's actually quite a joy when you can really make music with other people who are there, and they put the effort, and so these were my three primary instruments.
Okay. There you go. So, is there, like, if somebody doesn't know how to play any instrument, can be a good conductor? Has there been any cases in
Yeah,
history?
there is actually.
Really?
I wouldn't say good conductors, but I would say they love music, and they love the spirit of making music. I wouldn't say they're great conductors. I mean, I might get criticized for saying that, but there have been a few businessmen that have turned into conducting. I know there was one in New York, and he even got to the point where he was conducting the New York Philharmonic through Mahler's symphony, which is considered one of the most, how would you say, one of the most challenging symphonies to
Hmm.
perform. And so recently, I don't know what happened to that guy, but he did make a sort of a small career out of it. Now in Toronto, there is actually a businessman, and I actually met him once, by the name of Mando, and he's been conducting. He's a retired high tech, how do you say, high tech CEO who retired.
Entrepreneur.
yeah, and made a lot of money. So he made his own orchestra, and he's paying all
Ah,
the great players to come, and he conducts, and he learned. And recently he conducted the Toronto Symphony Orchestra, and I think this year he conducted the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra in the UK. So I mean, there are people who I'm not gonna say make comments about whether they were great conductors or anything. I haven't seen them live to make my own assessment, but I would say they are still conducting. So I mean, it's not uncommon. I think what it is leadership. It's really about leadership, inspiring, and being a great psychologist. I hate to use that word, but
no, but that's so true.
yeah.
But it comes to my next question. If you are performing in Japan, for example, or in Brazil,
Mm.
the way you are conducting would be different based off of their culture. Does it have any impact in the way that you're going to conduct, or it has a universal language among
It's
all these countries?
it's a universal language, and I think, and this is where every conductor becomes very different. Is that whether my mind is, I have the sound of what I really wish for the orchestra to sound like, whether it's in Japan or whether it's in China or whether it's in Canada or US but yes, you're right. When I go to certain places, you might need to compromise with what they are able to do, their abilities. So um, would I conduct it differently? I try not to, and I think that
Hmm.
that's something that you don't want to make too much of a compromise to what you do, because I always said, I mean, early to my friends, that conducting is very much like cooking. Like you're if you're a chef, and in French, a conductor is referred to as a chef d'orchestre, as chef of the orchestra. And the reason being is that the music we have is the recipe, but then how we interpret the recipe is how we make the final dish, or the symphony, what the symphony sounds like. And I think you know um for example, how you're going to cook your steak and how I'm going to cook my steak is going to be very different. Even though we have the same ingredients, we have the same recipe, but then you might like to put maybe a little bit more salt and less pepper, whereas I like to put, you know, for example, more pepper, and I like to put a little bit
As
of
an
this.
Iranian, I put somak. Do you know what somak is?
No, I don't.
You should try it. It's
Really,
Iranian
eh?
side. Yeah. I
But
put it on my steak sometimes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's the thing. It brings out certain flavors, and it's different. How do you say? Different conception toward the piece or
Mhm.
the dish, right? So that's why I'm always very I'm always very interested to hear what other people have um, as a conductor to do, because it makes me interested to see what can be done. And I know there are so many conductors out there, and there are a lot of things that I would never dare touch or try to interpret, because I know that conductor does it so well that like I would love to be like that, but then sometimes you just know that you don't have the ability to do it. And that's what, like, for example, there's a certain type of music that I would never try to touch. But I mean, you know um but when I see my colleagues do it and they do it so fascinating, it puts me in awe. Like, I'm so in awe of them when they do it so well.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. My next question.
Hmm.
Have you ever completely bombed on a stage?
Have I ever completely bombed on a stage? No. I would tell you, because as an orchestra, we always have what's called a rehearsal. So
Okay.
in general, we have what is it? We have a general picture of what's going to happen usually in a concert. But if you were to ask me if the an orchestra has ever made mistakes, or if I had made mistakes, then then for example, I would say there are times that I will say there are times that we all make mistakes, and
Okay.
I have made mistakes, and certain players have made mistakes, and it happens. And you know what? Um, those kind of small mistakes during a live performance and how we get out of it. That's a very big a beauty, I think, in itself of art, the art of making music. And so, think about it. If Ersan, if we were to play golf and we were just shooting, everybody shoot down the middle and
Hmm.
fairway and boom boom, I don't think there would be many people watching golf. But you see somebody like Tiger Woods who sprays it all over the place, and then to see him how he recovers, that's
Yeah,
really fascinating, right? So I think, and as an artist, we all try to do that, and we always try to make it as fascinating as possible to our a best of our ability.
okay. So once you're conducting an orchestra and you realize somebody is not himself or herself, there is
Mm,
some issue.
mhm,
She's not living up to the expectation.
mhm.
Does it change the way you are conducting? Like
Yes, it
offload
does.
less pressure from her or him, and then put more pressure on the strength of your musicians?
Yeah, I mean, you're very right. It does change my perception at that moment. At that moment, so, but then like this is where I say you have to be a great psychologist. At that moment, you have to make that quick decision. What do you do? Do you pressure her, or do you inspire her, or do you try to get other people to cover it up in a way, or you try to nuance it and compromise, and then so there's so many ways. I think it just will be at the spur of the moment. How do you make it happen, and how do you make the best out of that situation at that moment? And I think that's the real key of being a conductor with that kind of situation.
That's right. I bet. I bet that's. I think it's really related to psychology, as you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
Yeah, understand them, what's going on, like having control over the situation. You have a tough job, man.
It is.
I give you that. It's a tough job.
It is a tough job because you're nothing for certain,
Yeah.
and the one thing I always remind people in the public is that you guys, you guys who come to the concert, you only see the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
Below the
There's so much
iceberg,
going on.
there's so much going on. There's more about, how the rehearsal process. How do we get this all together? How do we blend? And it's so many things that goes on.
Are you a controlling person in your private life?
My private life, you can ask anybody. I'm a very relaxed person when I'm outside.
Relaxed person, right? Because I
I'm
think being a conductor, you've got to have full control over everything.
You do, and
Yeah.
you have to be on top of it. So I always say this because there's a great saying by a very famous violinist Isaac Stern that you, as a conductor, you need to know more than all the people put together in front of you, whether it's 4 people, 10 people, 100, 200. You have to know more than all of those people put together. And he's very right because you have to be so knowledgeable, so confident, and so that you're responsible for it and you have that responsibility. So of course, in an orchestra rehearsal, especially, I'm really hands on. Like I really want to be getting everything to what I want, as best as I can. And then the concert, sometimes I let loose. I want to trust the players that they know their responsibility, and sometimes that trust that I have between them get the best out of the players.
That's awesome. You know
Yeah.
what? I'm a project manager too. So like there are like multidisciplinary engineering. Sometimes they come together to just start a project.
Mm-hmm.
In engineering, it gets a little bit overly sometimes too detail oriented, and because
Yes.
but in music, it's a whole different world. So this just we are talking about two separate worlds from each other.
Yeah, definitely. But I think it's all correlated in some way because my father's an engineer too, and and my father used to have some, be on the project sites, and then sometimes my father's like, God, what am I going to do with these idiots? And and so he had to be so hands on with these
That's
idiots, and
right.
then certain people he knows that I've worked with him for say 30 years. He's like, just 3 words, get this done, and 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 it's done, and it's done so brilliantly. So, everybody has their own, how would you say, their own ramification or their own, how do you say, direction. But how you inspire them, that's different, right?
In engineering college, you've got to be French wrench, like to do everything. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So one more question from you. What's the
Mhm.
most unforgettable moment of your career?
Oh, you know what? There has
This
been
is a
so
very
many.
good.
There's so many,
Or
and
give me one. Give me two if you want.
I'll give you a few. I'll give you a few. I mean,
Okay.
I because I've conducted so many concerts. I mean, I think I'm in my high hundreds of concerts that I have already conducted in my life. I don't know if I hit the thousands yet, but I mean, um, I probably past a thousand. But I would say what is the most memorable is what the most memorable for me would be when I conduct and things go well and they go perfect and everything's in harmony. And that's the key word, when everything syncs and it's in harmony. And in music, there's one thing I don't know how to describe, but then there are certain times that music puts you into a different state of emotion that you get goosebumps or um you get and maybe just that off the top three off my head would be once with the Vancouver Symphony. We did this one concert, which was a main subscription concert, and we did. I just remember it was like Stravinsky or Ravel Bolero or something. I can't remember what piece it was, but when I was conducting it, and I just remember that feeling that wow, I just got goosebumps because everything was just going so well. When everything like that happened, I remember the audiences felt it too, and they reacted and they jumped onto their feet, and that for me was one of the memories. And another memory I would be with like what with young kids who haven't played the instrument for that many years, and I was just trying to get this piece, for example, Algar and Nimrod. I think this was quite a few years ago, and just trying to get them to get that feeling. And the people who are young, they just want to try so much harder. They want, because there's no such thing as union rules with young kids, so you can kind of abuse them in a way. But you try to make them play to the best of the, and you work, and then once they achieve that, you could see in their eyes, and they all looked at me and they smiled, and I got that goosebump with that one sound. And so those are kind of things that really touches me a lot, and they're unforgettable. And for example, I've been blessed to have so many opportunities to conduct around the world, like and to conduct in so many of the great concert halls, and to really um you know to really feel it. And the thing is that when you have audiences that come and they realize that you touch them in a way that that we don't know how to describe that. I think it's really the magical part of
Absolutely.
music making. And who I had a great talk with is I think it's maybe about getting close to maybe 7, 8, 9 years ago, at one of my concerts. The great movie star Dwayne Johnson, The Rock,
Mhm.
came to my
Yeah.
concert, and I didn't know. I mean, I didn't even know him. He just came, and it turned out that his wife's mom, and was also a classical music fan,
Here
and
in
they
Vancouver?
oh no, in Vancouver, they came to Vancouver. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
the whole family came, and I think he was shooting a movie at the same time, but The mom had actually, I've seen the mom, and she has actually been in the cultural. She loves. She came to my performance in Boston, and anyway, the long story short was that it had always been a dream of theirs for Dwayne Johnson to see a classical music concert, the Beethoven Ninth Symphony, and so he came, and little would I expect, the first person to really stand up and enjoy that I could see was Dwayne Johnson, and his whole family was sitting up in the box, and afterwards, his bodyguard came down. I didn't even think he needed a bodyguard, but anyway, the bodyguard came
He's a
down, and
bodyguard himself.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he said, "Oh, Mr. Johnson would like to have a word with you." I'm like, "Sure, tell him to come." And we had an hour conversation about you know our industry. Of me, he had so many questions. I had so many questions, of course, and we talked about this. And exactly what you said is that we all make mistakes or whatever, but that one point when something goes so well and everything syncs and it's in harmony, it makes up for everything. And
That's right.
and and I
And it
and
comes down to having a very positive impact. It's very
exactly
fulfilling to say,
full
oh,
feeling exactly.
and yeah, nothing measures up to that
Nothing
feeling.
measures up. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's why I've been
Is
so.
that is that true? People fall in love during a classical concert.
Uh,
That is a cliche.
Yeah, they do. I think
They
that,
do.
or I mean, there are people who will admit that they fall asleep in the concert too.
That's true. That's true.
But one of the things I said to my friend, I said, "Did you fall asleep?" And he goes, "I did." But he goes, "Ken, it's not as an insult to you." And I go, "Well, I hope so." But he said, "You have to understand, my day of my life as a lawyer is so stressful. I'm in court every day. I'm fighting, for my clients, and I'm, trying to get injunction. I'm trying to get this and this and this and this. And the minute at 7:30, I get to come to your concert, and that's one place I get to hear music, and then I feel so relaxed that it's not I'm not sleeping, but it puts me at a different or how do you say different state in my mind
Mhm.
that this is what he said that I can't of course I can buy the ticket and go, but this this precious feeling of being able to relax and maybe close my eyes, it's not sleeping, but that how do you say that
It's a
um
whole different dimension.
at a whole different dimension, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, that's
And
so true.
so that's why yeah, certain people will. I'm pretty sure some people would have slept, but I mean, fall in love, yes. And there are people who have come out of my concert angry too, because they were expecting certain things or certain things, but it didn't go their way. So, like in life, nothing ever goes everybody's way, right? So this is the
I
truth.
have the same experience with my podcast. It's so funny. Like when I bring in a new guest,
Mm,
and I never anticipated that some group of people they get so mad, and some
mhm,
group of people they really like me very very much, and I say, oh, what happened? Like why? Like they I think this guest should be. It's just, I mean, it should be very popular among all these people. It's like, how come? And then I start knowing what's going on. And
mhm.
next week, the other group really likes me, and the other group hates me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's kind of thing that I'm trying to figure out myself.
It
But
is,
you
it
know
is.
what? I'm doing my own job. I'm doing the best I could,
Yeah.
and
But you have to be true to yourself, and that's one thing that's hard as an artist. Sometimes you have to be true to what you believe, and what
mhm,
what you really put out there will be the best you can. And I think that really is the because in my life I had so many criticizations for from people who were saying, "Oh, Ken is just so lucky," or what, and I really don't like that word lucky, because I think it's not reflective of even anybody in my industry, because my industry, I would say, you make your own luck, and the harder you work, the luckier you are. And I always say that because I feel young people today always feel like things should be given to them, or and I said no, you have to work for it. You have, and the harder you work, the more you strive and everything, the luckier you will get. And this goes with anything. Like, if you're out there and you're networking, and you're meeting people, you're putting the effort in, you're practicing, you're studying everything. All this will combine, all this hard work combined together will get you somewhere. And I think that in my definition is luck. And so I
But luck is important too, Ken. So if you are not talented, if you are not in the right environment, and you
that's
cannot
true.
flourish, it's
Yeah.
just, I know it takes a lot of hard work, but there were some fundamental parameters that really
Hmm.
contributing to your success.
I think so. I mean, there are people that you meet, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, you're very right. I think there's a lot of it, and it goes all over. But luck is, yeah, luck is one
But
thing.
in the same circumstances, I agree with you.
Mm,
The harder you work, the better future you're going to create for yourself.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
No, but the thing is that we fail, and then one kid I remember. I said, "Who's your favorite basketball player?" He goes, "LeBron James." I go, "Oh, you never heard of Michael Jordan?" He go, "Ah, I don't even know Michael Jordan." And I go,
That's
"What?"
right.
He goes, "LeBron James." I said, "Of LeBron James, how do you say, how many points in championships have he won?" And I said, he works hard for sure.
Yeah,
But even him, he has failed at time too. But he keeps working and he works hard, and then yeah, he strives, and yeah, luckily he will, you know, win, right? So I mean, yeah, that's the thing with life is life takes it in so many different ways, doesn't it?
that's right.
Hmm.
So, Ken, what is your project that you're working on these days? So, like,
Well,
is there a new concert coming up? What are you doing these days?
so because since we're talking in Vancouver, Vancouver, because of FIFA,
Mm-hmm.
we won't be able to perform much in downtown. So a lot of our concerts have been postponed into August after
Okay.
FIFA has finished. But there are some small concerts that the orchestra are doing, but I won't be conducting them. But in August, probably the next, I do have maybe in 1 week several concerts, but one of the ones that a lot of Vancouver people enjoy is um, the the free outdoor concert at Jackpot Plaza.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people are familiar with Jackpot Plaza, but that's the you know what the Olympic Cauldron is in
Yes, in
yeah,
Waterfront
in
by
the water
Cactus
club,
Club.
by Cactus
Yeah,
Club, yeah, by the convention center.
yeah.
So we put on every year for the last number of many years, except for COVID. We put on a free concert every year, free to the public, and we play all the great music, including great classical pieces, and then we play movie music or some fun music
Very good.
and so we one of the things I love about that concert is that the audience is getting bigger and bigger, but
That's
then,
right.
and that's a concert I feel a lot of young families love to come to because a lot of moms and dads are very nervous about bringing their 5-year-old or 6 years old kid to a concert in the Orpheum, for example. But bringing them to this outside concert where they can run around, relax, listen to music, still be able to chat a little bit, and just enjoy the music and the beauty of the mountain and the ocean. That's a concert that I think
I love
all
that.
of us, yeah, all of us are gonna look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. Ken,
yeah.
I want to ask you my last question.
Hmm. Anything.
Okay, so this is okay. Let me pick one of these. This is one. This is one question.
Hmm.
Actually, I want to. No, what do you want your legacy to be? Let's
That's a
say. Yeah.
great question. Um, um, I think I would, probably, as of now, will have a different answer than before I die. I'm pretty sure. You know, before I die, I think I want to know if I have achieved something in what I really wanted. My legacy is that I really want to create music for people in the way that it inspires the next generation to carry on. And I'll tell you why, because this is why I do the VMO, because it's mainly towards younger people, younger professionals. And I never want to call this a professional orchestra because I'm not going against the Vancouver Symphony. I'm making this orchestra for younger players to come in. And so the beauty of my orchestra, for example, is my concert master and my principal cellist, they played with me when they were like 8 years old, 9 years old, or 13 years old as a soloist with the Vancouver Symphony or with my orchestra. And then over time, now they have succeeded and they have played in my orchestra as a member, gone out and studied, and then come back. And then now they are leaders of my orchestra. And this is what I really wanted to create was a how would I say? I want to show them the responsibility of nurturing the next generation because that's our responsibility. Because this goes with anything, like people always ask me, why did I do this and this and this? For example, I've been a co-chair for the Liver Foundation, or I've been on the committee for the Children's Hospital, or anything. The reason is because giving back is one thing, and giving back in terms of my music is one thing, and I want to create that responsibility in the next generation to pass on the knowledge and the beauty of music making to the next generation. And that's something that I really hope that will be my legacy, that people can remember that the VMO that which I started will be something that will last past my lifetime, that will continue to make great music. Because I think one of the things is that I really fear for the next generation in terms of creativity, because you know I'm going to be
AI.
AI, um, not just AI, but I also think with the responsibility of the responsibility of the government here in terms of education, because right now, I was just working this past weekend with high school kids, um, and the thing is that I feel so sorry for all these music educators, these music teachers, because they they keep getting their funding slashed smaller and smaller and smaller, and I always say one day these kids are not going to have any creativity because they're not doing something outside of math and science that explores their mind to creativity, unless their parents have, you know unless they come from a family that values that money, the parents are able to um, you know, put money into the kids for, for example, the next, a youth orchestra experience or piano lessons or anything. Not everybody has that privilege, and I think the schools are very responsible for that. And I'm going to be critical for the schools because they don't see it in the same context that we do. It's that, uh, with that, nobody's going to have any creativity. Then you talk about AI, which I think is great. I always say that artificial intelligence is great. However, it's I would say AI is going to be a great tool. However, there is a danger that we become reliant on AI as a tool that we will rely on. I would always say that the people who will be successful are the people who use AI as a resource and knows how to use it. So I call it actual intelligence, not artificial intelligence.
Hmm.
And so I always say that if people can use their own actual intelligence to use AI, then we'll be very successful in our next generation.
Yeah. So Ken, it's so funny. In my generation, we've seen everything. We started with like Pentium One, floppy disk, and
Hmm.
then we never I never had like a cell phone until I was like 24. And then
Really?
yeah. So
Oh my gosh! Wow.
like it was for rich people in the beginning. And then
Mm.
I slowly got everything Nokia, and then I got into iPhone. I don't know what it is. This is the last iPhone 17 Pro Max, and that's so my generation we've seen everything.
Hmm.
And then even in music, I had I like one of my hobbies is to create music using AI, and I like my product sometimes. Well, it's just for my personal, but
Hmm.
it's somehow that's crazy. I mean, what you get in return in just very short amount of time,
Yeah,
and we are just in the beginning of the stage of AI. Like
I
I can,
know.
it's gonna get exponentially
It's gonna revolutionize, and
advanced. Yeah,
yeah. So that's why I'm worried for the next generation because artificial intelligence is gonna take over quite a bit. But I always say to young kids today, hey, don't just use AI. Show me your actual AI. Your actual intelligence.
actual intelligence. Yeah,
Actual intelligence because that's the way I really feel the next generation need to know. And true because I think a lot of things music is harder I think than for example using AI for accounting and certain things, but engineering
music.
or
I don't want music to be.
I,
Uh,
I think music to be done by AI it's going to be challenging because yes there was at one point a maybe a few months ago a song that hit number four or something on the top Billboard charts, and it was created by AI and it was performed by AI, and it caused a whole uproar. But the thing was that I listened to that piece, and it didn't sound so appealing, to be honest. But I do understand the concerns, but I think there's still a long way to go before music gets taken
Absolutely.
because music is one thing that comes from a soul of a
Mhm.
person. And I think, when you talk about the soul of a person and the soul and it reaches into the soul of another person, that's so hard to create. That's all by emotion. That's all by,
Mhm.
and that's what we say as an artist. We do a lot of things by emotions, and that I don't know if AI is going to be able to replicate, but who knows? I might be wrong.
Well, yeah, yeah. Who
Yeah,
knows?
I know.
Ken, that was my pleasure speaking with you. I really enjoyed the speaking with
Yeah,
you. That
thank you.
was a
Yeah,
good talk,
thank you.
man. We
Yeah,
should
it was
we should hang out more.
absolutely. I'm in. I'm in. I and Sammy's been so wonderful as a friend, and I it kind of really how would I say interesting for me and a blessing for me to get to know the Iranian community here in Vancouver because
Yeah,
it's a very passionate one. It's a
they're
very passionate
passionate.
group. They're
Yeah,
very passionate, and
no
they
kidding.
and they you know I mean I don't know enough to be making a statement about what's going on, to be honest, because I haven't really studied enough. But what I can say is that people that I've met so far in Vancouver who are of Iranian descent, my God, what a lovely community. What a lovely community. And I would say, what a fantastic people. So loving and so full of energy, and they're just so happy to be living here. I mean, I just don't know how it's just really
That's so true.
changed
That's so true.
my opinion of what people are, and the happiness they
You
bring.
never get bored around Iranians.
Oh,
I bet
never,
you. Yeah,
never,
yeah.
never.
Every day there is something new.
Exactly, exactly. It's been such a blessing to meet Sammy and people like you, and the food. My gosh, I mean I really didn't get into your culture of food until just recently, And I loved everything about your food. I mean, those skewers, and my God, those are
Kebab.
kebab. Oh
Of
my
course.
God, tell me about it.
You've got to try my somak too. The
Oh,
spice. I can. That's a good
okay.
one
Next
too.
time you promise me that we
You're gonna like it. Yeah. All right,
uh,
my friend. Have a good night. You
you
take
too.
care and see
Thank
you
you for
around.
having me. Yes.
Absolutely. My honor.
Okay.
Thanks for
Take care, man.
coming.
All
You
right.
too. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
با سر همبندی حق بازی یه چند وقتی انسان میتواند یک کاری رو پیش ببرد، ولی این کار دائمی نمیتواند باشد. چنده هر کسی که تو خالی باشد بالاخره معلوم میشد.